Guys, we've got Vitali on the line with us. How are you?
Hey, how are you guys? Steve and Andrew.
All right, how are you, Vitali?
Good. So I'm talking to Steve and Andrew, correct?
Correct.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. So, of all the questions I gotta ask you, the first one is, how did you get Mike to do this, and why Mike?
Why Mike is there somebody better that we should have been doing? I think Mike's the most compelling person possibly ever. We've covered a lot of celebrities and athletes over the years, and I'm not sure there's even a close second. But how did we get Mike? I have a little bit of a history with Mike. I did a Beyond the Glory episode with him back in 2003 and spent 9 months with him in 5 different cities. And right during the time when he got the tattoo, half the show has the tattoo, half does not. Which was a lot of fun, and we got pretty close during that, and then lost touch. But we have the same agent and our agency, and they approached me with, hey, Mike is maybe ready to do something, not a reality show, but something in the reality space, more documentary, but something that looks a little bit different, doesn't look like a traditional reality show. And of course, he knows you from the time he did it. He always felt. At the end of that one, I remember he thanked us for, actually letting him speak, because there's so many things that have been done on him where he just gets hammered. And we did 10 hours of interviews with him at the time, and just aired it very raw. And we interviewed another 30 people to be in the show. We ended up pulling most of them out because we let Mike have his voice.
Right.
And he was always appreciative of it, and he remembered that. So when it came time to do this now in 2013. Again, he remembered us and remembered me and said, that's the guy I'd like to do it. So if we're gonna go down the road again, let's do it with somebody I trust. And then we brought in Andrew, who is extremely talented and great, and he was the one who did the day-to-day this time and spent 3.5 months on the road with him. And anyway, it was a great experience. But I'll let Andrew fill in on that.
Awesome. And are you guys, just fans of Mike Tyson as a fighter back in the day? Huge fans.
Big. I think my entire life, I don't care what I was doing. If there was a Mike Tyson fight, forget about it. That was happening. I think I throw parties and all kinds of stuff.
All right. So then, in response to that, let me ask: Is there still a little bit of the old Mike, the Iron Mike Tyson, left in the current one?
Certainly, and again, Andrew can speak to it because he spent a lot more time recently than I have. But I guess he obviously had a very crazy childhood and has had a crazy life, and there are certainly remnants of that in his being. But Mike is again, having known him for about 10 years, is in a much different place than he was 10 years ago, and I'm sure much different from where he was when Barbara Koppel did her interview. He's happy. I think he's just happy to be alive at this point. He's survived a lot, and he just has a completely different outlook than before. But
Right.
go ahead, Andrew. You can.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I would say, you get a phone call from Steve Michaels saying, hey, we want you to spend 3.5 months with Mike Tyson and do this television show with him, and immediately your 11-year-old self sort of jumps up and down.
Right.
You're a fan before you're anything else. Before you're a filmmaker, before you're a documentarian, before you're a television producer, you're a fan. And there's, after the instant sort of excitement, there's also a whole lot of pressure, because he is someone who has been examined. His story has been told. And you want to bring something new and have a new take and a new perspective and shed some new light on the topic. And I think we've done that here. To your question about, is there any of the old Iron Mike in him still, I think that, all people evolve. I don't know that we change. I think we evolve and grow. And I think Mike is someone who has grown, and has grown up a lot. But through the journey, there are little glimpses that you see, little something you see in the eye, little something that you see where, whether it's physically or emotionally, that man is still in there.
Right.
When we first started, Mike said to me, you can do anything you want. We'll do anything. I said, well, do you go to the gym? Do you still hit the bag ever? He said, I've not hit a bag since I retired. And that's not something I do anymore. And then through the 3.5 months that we were with him, we went to see Evander Holyfield's son have an amateur fight. And you see that spark, that glimpse. Evander's a pretty laid-back guy, and he was able to sit ringside and sort of watch and take it in the way that he experiences it. Mike, in between rounds, is jumping up and showing Evander's son Evan how to hit different combinations,
Right.
And so that spark comes out. We were with the UFC fighter Johnny Hendricks, and Mike said, "You're taking me to a gym. I'm not going to hit the bag. I'm not going to hit the bag." And then before the cameras could even keep up with it, he's right there showing Johnny, and hitting the bag. And so there are these glimpses, both highs and lows, that you see, and I think viewers will see that as they watch the show, that for as much as Mike has grown and has moved past the phase in his life when he was the baddest man on the planet and Iron Mike Tyson, there are still, it's still part of the fabric of who he is today.
Of content.
But I can tell you, I don't know how much you know about our company. We do documentaries. We also do a bunch of reality shows, which are, we like to call them assisted reality because there really isn't anything real in most of these shows that we do. But this one was as authentic a show as we've done, probably over 1,000 hours of programming. I don't think we've ever done anything as authentic as this, and that is a promise we made to Mike when we set out to do this because, he does know how reality shows work, and when we sat down at the table with him and the network executive, we said, this cannot look, they said this cannot look like a traditional reality show, and we certainly agreed with that. And we said, listen, as long as you give us the access and you let us follow you around and you don't block us from doing anything and no topic is off limits, we're going to, put a camera in front of you and hopefully you're just going to give us everything you can raw. And that's what he did. Cannot look, they said this cannot look like a traditional reality show, and we certainly agreed with that. And we said, listen, as long as you give us the access and you let us follow you around and you don't block us from doing anything and no topic is off limits, we're going to, put a camera in front of you and hopefully you're just going to give us everything you can raw. And that's what he did. And so when we got in editing, of course, Andrew can explain more about that, but when we got in editing, there wasn't any need to fabricate or to change storylines or to, put in bites to manipulate anything. It was as real as it gets.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And, this is not a reality show. I think as we grow tired, or as we grow, as we grow accustomed to, watching reality shows on television and what that is, this is very much not that. It's quite the opposite, as Steve was saying. I give a lot of credit to Michael Bloom at Fox Sports 1, who was our day-to-day executive on it, because it's scary to make a show that is so different and is so raw, especially for a network that was just about to launch, to be so different from what programming like this usually looks like, and sounds like, and feels like, is a big risk on his part and on the network's part. And he was always driving us, and always driving me personally, to let Mike be Mike. And I think it comes out in the final product of how honest the storytelling is.
Right. So Mike never said, "Hey, guys, I don't want to be filmed right now. Give me a break."
I mean, maybe when he was tired, but certainly not because of any topic that we threw at him. There was nothing off limits. When we started shooting frame one, we said, listen, if we're going to want to put you, we may want to put you in front of Robin Givens or Desiree Washington. And
Right.
Great. And he said, okay, I mean, listen, if that's what you're going to throw at me, I'm in. But again, not his fault, but that was a little bit hard to get those guys.
And what I would add to that is, through the process of that, we followed what was real and what was organic. And the truth was that the more I got to know Mike, the more I realized he probably didn't have much to say to those women. Though he was open to it. It's not that he said, I'm not going to do that.
Right.
It's it became much less interesting a topic as we made this show than the things that Mike was excited about. Steve and I, and we never imagined that Mike was going to want to sit down with Jim Brown. And then when it came up, I remember thinking, all right, what's this going to be? But to watch Mike talk with Jim Brown as a true, mentor and father figure, and talk about marriage and fidelity and fatherhood and just this journey that they're on, as men, was incredible. And so, again, it was not only did he have no limits for us, but he showed real genuine excitement about so many of the things that we did, and ultimately that's why it's interesting. As producers and as storytellers, I'm often telling subjects that if we're doing something that you don't care about, the audience won't care either.
Right.
You can produce it and say, yeah, go do this, and it'll be great. But if the subject doesn't care about it, the viewer's not going to care either. Everything that we did here, was really very important to Mike, and was part of his own emotional journey and growth. So that's why I think the final product is so compelling.
Using one sentence, if you can, what do you, how would I phrase this? What would you want this documentary to show or tell about Mike Tyson?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, that gives you extra time to think about it.
We both answered.
Yeah. This is Andrew saying. One sentence, what I hope people will take from this documentary. I would say that this is a man at a crossroads in his life who is trying to put... let me take that back. This is a man at a crossroads in his life, and this is not a look backwards for him, but a look inwards at the man he once was and the man that he hopes to be.
Where he happens to be in his life, and maybe some of that happened when The Hangover came out, and people went, "Oh my God, look at that guy! He's actually funny, and he's not the monster we all have come to know." But that that's the truth. He's in a different place in his life, and a lot of it has to do with his wife, who he's obviously had a number of wives, and but this current one is the most grounded that I've been around, and they've got a special relationship, and he trusts her and.
Be disappointed by the variety of colors that he brings. Yes, he is not the man he was at 19. He is not the man who stepped into the ring against Michael Spinks. He is certainly a different person, as we all are, from that fight 25 years ago. But he is no less compelling or engaging or surprising than he's ever been. I mean, what's funny to me is, even in light of the events of the last, few weeks, that when he had that press conference, when he had become a promoter,
right,
people were so shocked by what he said. And I watched it and I said, well, that's Mike.
Yeah.
He's honest. You give him a microphone, he's going to speak. And it's not going to be the talking points that, some publicist gave him or that somebody told him to say. He is a raw character emotionally, and so we said, as Steve said, we didn't set out to tell any version of him. Is he a less aggressive guy now? Yes. Does he have a different sense of humor than he once had? Sure. But he is Mike Tyson.
Who did Mike Tyson meet during the show? What other sports stars, movie stars, or anybody of interest, who did he meet during the show?
During the show, you will see Mike with Evander Holyfield, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, Bobby Stewart, who, of course, boxing fans will know as the person who introduced him to Customato, Dana White from the UFC, Johnny Hendricks from the UFC, and Steve, am I forgetting anybody?
No, I don't think so.
Well, let me ask you. Actually, when when Tyson met Ali or anybody, is he does he kind of feel like he's their pal, or is he a humble guy basically? Does he, when if I were to meet Ali, I would be meeting a legend, and I would be nervous, and I would, all that stuff. Is Mike the same way, or is he a little bit more relaxed when he's meeting these people?
Mike's a unique character in that he has lived such a big life. He has been everywhere. He has met everyone. We don't. When you hear Mike tell a story about China, about Indonesia, about somewhere in Europe, it's because he's been there. When he talks about the Holocaust, it's because he's visited Auschwitz. You know what I mean? I mean, he has done everything and lived this huge life. And so I don't know that I would give him, I don't know that I would describe him as nervous ever, but he is incredibly humble and respectful and takes in the largeness of his encounters. And so Muhammad Ali is an example. He is, incredibly excited. He, just like you would, is telling, me stories leading up to it that, oh yeah, I remember the first time I met Ali, and I remember he said this, and, he's a hero of his. Right. He might be his ultimate hero in life. And so there's a great amount of admiration that Mike has for him and for a lot of the people he encounters. The same thing I would say for Jim Brown. He has such respect for Mr. Brown and such admiration for him, not just as an athlete, but as a man and as a leader. That I think that comes through.
Great.